Hello and welcome to Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. In this program, we take the questions that you send to us and we answer them, we talk about them, and please continue to send us your questions at questions@thefatimacenter.com. And we got an interesting question today about marijuana. Is smoking marijuana a mortal sin if used wisely? I've been to confession when I had one priest tell me to be careful, and I asked him, so if I have a little after work for stress release, for anxiety, and he says it's okay, just be careful. I confessed another time to a different priest, and he says you got to get rid of it. So I'm confused. I've done tons of research on the benefit of its use. So here we go.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that I'm not as familiar with its benefits. I certainly heard that it's that sometimes medically people have
or prescribed it.
Prescribed. Well, yeah. I'm thinking more of in an operation. You know, even with say, well, if you have, I just came from the dentist today, in fact, but he didn't use. I don't like using freezing if I don't need it, and it wasn't necessary, so I prefer not to. But that, of course, only has a local effect of deadening the nerves temporarily in the area of the tooth or something like that. And so it's also, people have been put out, by anesthesia some way or other to
that's always for another purpose.
Yeah, the purpose is, of course, to allow the person to tolerate the pain or not feel the pain, so they can get on with the job of fixing the tooth or fixing, if they're operating on their heart or somewhere else. That obviously it would be very painful to be doing this while you're wide awake. So I think marijuana has been used in that regard. Maybe not as much.
Yeah,
as
there is some uses of medical marijuana, but it's always for a different purpose.
Yes.
It's not for the it's not for the purpose of getting stoned.
Oh, of course. I'm just and so the person is saying that. So when I think the operative word here is used wisely. Well, obviously, if a person is using it for a legitimate medical purpose, then it's being used wisely. But if it's being used to get drunk or get, then obviously there's something else at work.
Sure. Yeah, because a couple of ways to look at this too is one of them. The question about mortal sin, I want to talk about that secondly. But first of all, the reason that taking mind-altering drugs is wrong is really a natural law argument, that the intellect is the highest faculty we have. It's what differentiates us from the animals. And it's really that faculty that makes us closest to God, as it were, because God is intellect, and He gave us intellect, and it's the ability to judge and our free will is involved with it. So anything that we would do that would directly undermine or subvert our intellect and to bring it down is actually a misuse of the intellect. It's a misuse of the end of the intellect, and therefore it is immoral for that reason. And people will often say, well, what about drinking? Well, we shouldn't drink to get drunk either.
No.
I know, but if you sit down, husband and wife sit down at 5 o'clock and have a scotch and soda, and there's a little relaxation, and you're not drinking to get drunk, or you're not drinking to alter your mind or anything. But the very nature of marijuana itself, once you start smoking it, is that your mind is altered. There's no taste. There's no, I don't know. I know of plenty of wine tasting clubs, but I don't know of any marijuana tasting clubs, where they check this one and they check that one and they spit it out. I don't think it works that way. So it can't be compared to drinking that way, although drunkenness is sinful too.
Drunkenness obviously stops the person from being able to.
Sure, yeah, it's the same thing. It's directly attacking our highest faculty, which is the intellect. And bring us down, in some ways below the animal level, because when our intellect goes, oftentimes our ability to, our sensate operations. You step into a car and you drive, even though if you have the habit of driving, it's pretty much all a lot of sense operation at that point. It's going to be altered, and you're going to be a danger to yourself and a danger to others.
Yes, of course. Now the other thing I think that I would. About marijuana, besides everything you said, which I agree with, is that I've often heard that marijuana is a sort of a portal or a doorway to people getting into even heavier drugs.
Yeah, there is that, sure.
And that the idea is that, I don't know, so that if, for example, Scripture says, he who loves danger will perish in it. That's from the Old Testament. And we have an expression which says, if you play with matches, you'll get burnt. So, in other words, if I put myself in danger, so if I'm at the Grand Canyon, I have been there, but if I put my head over the edge, I say, well, I wonder if I can put my head over another inch, and maybe I can see that thing down there. At some point, my center of gravity will be more over than under, and I'm putting myself in danger, and maybe I get the thrill, but sooner or later, I'm going to fall in. I'm going to fall. So it's the same thing. If we put ourselves voluntarily in danger, then then we don't have the grace of. Now, if I find myself, trying to rescue somebody, I'm leaning over a cliff to try and pull them back or something like that. I'm not doing that because I enjoy the danger. I'm doing that because I'm trying to save somebody. So God will give me, not that I still have to be careful, but God's not going to give me that extra protection when I'm in danger because I put myself there voluntarily. As Scripture says, if you do it for the love of the danger, you will perish in it. And I think this kind of thing is that by getting into this, and I've had people tell me this, that by getting this, then they go into drugs which are, and I've also met people that even 20, 30, 40 years after they've used this stuff, I mean, they're paying a price for their whole life, and they, they're good. I mean, they're trying their best and everything else, but they're taking drugs to counterbalance the bad effects they've had. If they don't take them, they get much worse. They go off the deep end, and if they do take them, they still have to lose part of their sharpness of their intellect. And it's really quite a shame. So if anyone's even tempted to think of this stuff, the price to pay for this is not worth anything.
And as I said,
apart from, of course, mortal sin
it's attacking our highest faculty. Yeah. It's our highest faculty. But I wanted to actually, what you said really ties in what I was going to say about mortal sin, and that is that I remember Monsignor Smith, the moral theologian who taught at Dunwoody Seminary, and he used to say that the Dominicans and the Jesuits' manuals of moral theology are different in their structure, because the Jesuits do the entire outline of the moral law based on the Ten Commandments, really asking the question, is this a sin? Yeah. Whereas the Dominicans, their structure is more within the context of the four cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance. And the question they ask is, what is the right thing to do? What is the best thing to do? What is the way to grow in virtue? So when we get into questions as, is it a mortal sin, as you said about on the Grand Canyon, the mentality is, well, how close can I walk to the edge before I fall off? Yeah. Where the Dominican method is to say, what is the best thing to do? What is the most virtuous thing to do? The virtue of temperance, and find other legitimate means to relieve anxiety, but not through smoking marijuana. Yeah. So anyway, one last point, and that is, of course, is that what we were saying about medical marijuana is according to the principle of double effect, that you have the good. It has to be
proportionate.
Good, at least indifferent. There has to be a proportionate reason. The bad effect must follow the good effect, and the bad effect must not be desired.
Yeah, and the bad effect doesn't come through the good effect. In other words, so if I'm taking I'm taking even morphine or something like that for pain to have an operation. That stops the pain, but it's not. The purpose is not because my brain is deadened or because I lose my intelligence. It's because it stops the pain. Yeah. So I can. Yeah, and the proportion is, if I don't have my leg cut off or whatever else, then I'm going to die. So it's to save life. You have a serious operation, and you can. It's not just because you want to see what it would look like without.
Yeah, the purpose is for the medical reason and not for the sake of altering your mind. So anyway, anybody has any more questions about this, we'll be glad to deal with them. And that's all for this program, and we will see you on the next broadcast. Thank you.